You know, one of the greatest treasures in old age is peace. Not just silence or solitude, but that deep internal kind of peace that doesn't come from circumstances. It comes from choosing wisely who we allow into our lives. And if there's one type of person that can rob you of that peace faster than anything, it's the chronic complainers. Now you know who I'm talking about. These are the ones who never have a good word to say about anything or anyone. If the sun is shining, it's too hot. If it's raining, it's too wet. If you share something beautiful that happened in your day, they'll find the one flaw in it. And they don't just complain about their lives, they complain about yours too. You'll tell them about a new doctor you're seeing, or a book you're reading, or a trip you've planned. And instead of encouragement, they'll poke holes, subtle comments, little jabs. And before you know it, they've planted doubt where there was once joy. In your younger years, maybe you tolerated it. Maybe you even excused it. Oh, that's just how they are. But hear me when I say this. In your later years, you don't have that kind of time or energy to waste. Not anymore. Your emotional and mental space is too valuable to give away to people who are constantly dragging you into their gloom. Because negativity, when left unchecked, becomes a disease. It spreads. It settles into your bones and spirit. And if you're not careful, their complaints will start to sound like your inner voice. I've seen people, good people, grow old and bitter, not because of their circumstances, but because of who they kept around them. They let others color their view of the world until all they could see was what was wrong. What a tragedy. Life, especially in these years, should be about finding beauty in the small things, holding joy in your hands like a warm cup of tea, not throwing it away because someone said the cup wasn't fancy enough. You might be thinking, but some of these people are family. I've known them all my life. And that's true. But knowing someone a long time doesn't give them a lifelong lease on your peace. You are allowed to shift the closeness of relationships in your life. You can love people and still keep a healthy distance from their attitude. You can show compassion without carrying their complaints like a backpack full of bricks. There's a difference between someone who's going through something and someone who's addicted to complaining. One needs support, the other feeds off drama and misery. And the truth is, some people don't want solutions. They just want to marinate in dissatisfaction. Don't let them pull you into that stew. It starts small, you know? A few conversations here and there. You listen, you nod, you try to be kind. But over time, that energy transfers. You start feeling heavy after talking to them. You start questioning your own optimism, your own gratitude, and eventually your spirit begins to shrink just a little and a little more until you can't remember the last time you laughed from your gut or felt light in your chest. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. That might sound harsh, but it's truth. You've walked too many miles in life, weathered too many storms to spend your golden years surrounded by clouds that aren't even yours. You need people who bring light, not perfection. Not cheerfulness all the time, but perspective. People who can see pain and still speak hope, who can face hardship and still offer love. That's who you need near you. And if you don't have many of those people, it's okay. It's better to sit in a quiet room alone with peace than in a noisy one full of bitterness. Protect your mind, protect your heart. You've earned that right. Let your final seasons be filled with grace, not groaning. Let them talk somewhere else. There's something about getting older that reveals things, not just in ourselves, but in others. You begin to see people more clearly. The masks slip. The true intentions show. And one of the most painful discoveries sometimes is realizing that someone you've loved, trusted, maybe even raised or helped has been manipulating you. It doesn't always come in the form of shouting or obvious control. No, the most dangerous manipulation is subtle. It plays on your kindness. It uses your love as leverage. And worst of all, it can come from the people closest to you, even family. When you're younger, maybe you brush it off. You let it go because it's your child or your sibling or someone you've shared your life with. But in old age, you must be wise enough and strong enough to draw a line. Not from anger, not from bitterness, but from a deep understanding that your time is too precious, your energy too limited, and your well-being too important to keep giving it away to those who twist it for their benefit. You can start with something small, a favor here, a little guilt there. But you've always helped me. I don't know what I'll do without you. You know I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate. And because you're loving, because your heart is soft, you say yes. You say yes even when your body says no. You say yes even when your spirit is weary. You say yes because you remember their childhood or the sacrifices you made, or because you don't want them to suffer. But here's what I want to tell you. Manipulation thrives where boundaries are weak. And in these later years, if you don't put boundaries in place, someone else will define your life for you. They'll decide how your time is spent. They'll tell you how to use your money. They'll influence your choices, your health, even your peace, all while claiming to just be helping or just looking out for you. And sometimes it isn't even about what they say, it's how they make you feel. You start noticing that after a phone call or a visit, you're not at ease, you're anxious, tense. You feel like you've done something wrong when all you did was express your own needs. That's manipulation. That's emotional control. And no one, I mean no one, has the right to make you feel guilty for living your own life, especially at a stage where every moment should be rooted in freedom, not fear. Now, this isn't about cutting people off in anger or isolating yourself. This is about recognizing when love is no longer mutual, when it's become a transaction, a power play. You can still love someone and not let them control you. You can pray for someone and still keep your distance. You can care deeply and still say no more. You might hear things like you're changing or you're being selfish when you start to set those boundaries. But what they're really saying is you're no longer easy to manipulate. And that's not a loss. That's growth. That's healing. That's protecting the years you have left so you can live them in dignity and calm. You've carried others long enough. You've given and poured and stretched yourself thin out of love, out of duty. And I know for some of you, it hurts even to think about pulling back. But let me ask you something. If the roles were reversed, would they protect your peace the way you've protected theirs? Would they sacrifice their sleep, their savings, their sanity, the way you have for them? If the answer is no, then it's time to reevaluate the terms of that relationship. This is not cruelty, it's clarity. You are not rejecting them, you are choosing you. And choosing you doesn't mean you stop loving others. It just means you stop letting them rewrite your story. Old age isn't a time to hand over the pen to someone else. It's the time to write the chapter you've earned. One with less stress, more calm, less guilt, more grace, less control from others, and more alignment with your own voice, your own values. You deserve people around you who honor your autonomy, not just your usefulness. People who respect your choices, not just tolerate them. And if someone can't do that, no matter how close they've been, no matter what history you share, then it's okay to create space. You can love from a distance. You can protect your soul and still walk in kindness. You do not exist to be someone else's emotional crutch. Let them learn to stand on their own. There comes a point in life where you begin to value something far more than money, more than possessions, even more than time. And that something is respect. Genuine, soul-deep respect. Not the kind that flatters you in public and dismisses you in private. I'm talking about the kind of respect that listens to your voice, honors your wisdom, and sees your presence as a gift, not a burden. And I'll tell you this plainly, in old age, you cannot afford to keep people around who disrespect you, even if they share your blood. It's a hard truth, but it's a necessary one. Age should come with honor. After all you've lived through, the years you've worked, sacrificed, prayed, held your family together, gave more than you received, the very least you deserve is to be treated with dignity. But not everyone sees it that way. Some people, especially those who've grown used to your strength, begin to overlook your value. They assume that because you're quieter now, maybe slower in body, that you don't matter quite as much anymore. They speak over you, make decisions without you, roll their eyes when you give your opinion. They treat you like a relic of the past instead of a foundation of the present. Let me tell you something. You are not invisible. You are not irrelevant. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here because God still has breath in your lungs, which means you still have purpose. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve the front row in your life. You see, disrespect doesn't always come in loud, ugly ways. It comes in being ignored, being talked to like a child, being corrected like you don't know how to think, being reminded of your age like it's something shameful. It comes in little ways, a sarcastic remark here, a dismissive sigh there. You try to share a memory, and they say, "Oh, we've heard that already." You try to give advice, and they laugh and say, "Things are different now." You try to express a concern, and they tell you you're overthinking it. And you sit there, swallowing your words, shrinking inside, trying not to make it worse. That's not love. That's erasure. And sometimes it comes from those you've poured everything into. The very ones who should protect your honor are the ones chipping away at it. And it hurts more because you never expected it from them. But here's the truth. If they will not acknowledge your voice, you must stop handing it to them. If they won't listen to you in love, you must stop chasing their approval in silence. Don't let anyone, not a son, not a daughter, not a sibling, not a spouse, reduce you to someone who has nothing to say. You have decades of experience, of insight, of lessons carved through joy and suffering. Your life is a library, and it deserves to be read with reverence, not skipped over. I want to speak directly to those of you who've been made to feel like your presence is just something people put up with. Maybe they only come around out of obligation. Maybe when they're with you, they're half present, always checking their phone or rushing to leave. Maybe they mock your habits, your routines, the way you pray or the way you think, and you've smiled through it because you don't want to stir conflict. But I'm here to tell you, your peace matters more than their convenience. You don't have to prove yourself anymore. You've already done enough. If someone can't see your worth, stop trying to convince them. Start showing them with how you carry yourself that you won't settle for less. Speak up when it's necessary. Say no when it's needed. And if they call you difficult, let them. If they say you're being sensitive, let them. You're not here to shrink to make others comfortable. You're here to finish strong with your head high and your spirit intact. Surround yourself with those who listen when you speak, who ask for your opinion because they value your insight, not just because they feel obligated. Choose to be around people who light up when you walk in the room, not those who sigh or look past you. You deserve to be seen, fully, deeply, truly seen for who you are, not just who you used to be. You are still wise. You are still needed. You are still powerful. And if someone in your life doesn't treat you that way, it's time they take a step back, because your soul deserves better than disrespect masquerading as familiarity. There's something about growing older that sharpens your awareness, not just of time, but of people. You begin to notice things you used to overlook, the way someone's tone changes when they speak to you, the way your words get brushed aside like they don't carry weight anymore. And perhaps one of the most painful realizations in this stage of life is coming face to face with disrespect, especially when it comes from the very people you helped raise, protect, or walk with for years. You see, age doesn't make you less. It doesn't reduce your value. If anything, it multiplies it. You've walked through things younger folks haven't even imagined yet. You've endured heartbreaks, made sacrifices, experienced miracles, and survived seasons that would have broken others. That's not something to dismiss. That's something to honor. But not everyone sees it that way. Some people, even family, begin to treat your age like a weakness. They don't say it outright, but you feel it. They roll their eyes when you repeat a story. They cut you off mid-sentence because they think they already know what you're going to say. They start making decisions for you, not with you. You sit in the room, and yet your voice goes unheard. And the temptation is to let it go, to chalk it up to the generation gap, or tell yourself not to make a fuss. But let me tell you, disrespect in any form, at any age, should never be accepted. Not because you want to fight, not because you're trying to control anyone, but because your soul was not made to be ignored. You are not an afterthought. You're not a shadow walking around waiting to fade. You are still here for a reason. And that reason includes being heard, being seen, being valued. Sometimes the disrespect doesn't even look like open defiance. It's quieter than that. It comes in jokes made at your expense, in dismissive glances when you try to help, in assumptions that you're out of touch just because you don't do things the way the world does now. And if you're not careful, that kind of treatment will start to sink into your spirit. You'll start believing that maybe your time really has passed, that maybe your thoughts aren't needed anymore. That lie is dangerous. It can shut down a heart long before the body stops working. You know what I've learned? Respect has nothing to do with how loud you are or how much power you hold. It has everything to do with the people you surround yourself with. If you're constantly around people who belittle you, talk over you, or make you feel like a burden, it's not your job to change them. It's your job to guard your space. You've earned the right to choose peace over proximity, even if they're family, even if you've known them your whole life. You can love someone and still say, I will not be treated this way. And I know what some of you are thinking, but they're my child, my brother, my granddaughter. Yes, and you can still set a boundary. You can still say, when you speak to me like that, I feel small, and I won't live the rest of my life feeling small. It's not about cutting people off. It's about lifting yourself up. It's about saying, I've lived too long, given too much, and been too faithful to let anyone reduce me now. Respect is not a luxury. It's not something you should have to earn at this stage in life. It should be the foundation. And if someone can't offer it to you, then you need to start reevaluating how close they're allowed to stand in your life. Because if you keep giving your energy to people who tear you down, you won't have any left for the ones who are willing to lift you up. There are people, yes, even now, who want to hear your stories, who are hungry for your wisdom, who are moved by your grace. But they can't get to you if your space is full of those who only want to silence you. You have the right to sit at a table where your voice matters. You have the right to be in rooms where your presence is honored, not just tolerated. And if no one has told you that lately, hear it from me now. You deserve to be respected every day you're alive by everyone in your life. Never let age convince you to settle for less than dignity. One of the most dangerous traps you can fall into as you get older is keeping people around just because they've always been there. Familiar faces, old connections, long-standing relationships. We tell ourselves that history is enough to keep someone close. But let me tell you something from the bottom of my heart. Not everyone who started with you deserves to finish with you. There are some people, and again, sometimes even family, who simply refuse to grow. You grow, you shift, you open your eyes to new understanding, you embrace change, you seek peace, you let go of old pain. But they stay stuck. They cling to bitterness, they hold on to offense like it's a prize, and they make a home in the past, refusing to step into the present, let alone the future. And when you try to move forward, they don't cheer you on. They pull you back. They make you feel guilty for outgrowing the old dynamics. They accuse you of changing as if that's something bad. And here's the truth. You have changed. And you should have. Growth is not betrayal. Healing is not abandonment. You were not put on this earth to stay stuck in the same version of yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. Yet there are people who will demand just that. They want you to remain in roles that no longer fit, to keep playing parts in a script you've outgrown, just because it makes them feel secure. These people might not scream or fight. Sometimes they're subtle. They say things like, you're different now, or you used to be more available, more silent, more agreeable, more easy to control. And instead of celebrating the peace you fought to find, they resent it. Why? Because they refuse to confront what they haven't dealt with. And instead of facing their own need to change, they try to make you feel guilty for doing what they won't. Don't let them, please, don't let them. Because the price of holding on to people who refuse to grow is too high. It's your peace, it's your joy, it's your mental clarity. And at this stage in life, you simply can't afford to be tangled up in the emotional mess of people who are committed to staying exactly as they are. You can love them, you can pray for them, but you are not obligated to carry them. See, the weight of a person who refuses to grow is heavier than it looks. They might not always say it outright, but they'll expect you to keep doing things for them, to keep explaining yourself, to keep meeting them where they are, while they make no effort to meet you where you are. And slowly, without realizing it, you start feeling like you're back in a place you've already left behind, emotionally, mentally. Sometimes growth means distance. It means adjusting the kind of access people have to you, not out of hate, but out of love. Love for yourself, love for your future, and love for what God is still doing in your life. Because yes, He's still doing something. He's not finished with you, and you cannot fully receive what's next if your arms are still tied up holding on to people who are stuck in what was. I've seen too many people grow old and bitter, not because life was unkind, but because they stayed loyal to relationships that were no longer healthy. They confused history with destiny. Just because you've known someone for decades doesn't mean they're meant to walk with you into your final seasons. Some people were only supposed to be part of a chapter, not the whole story. And you don't have to hate them to move on. You don't have to make a dramatic exit or a loud announcement. Sometimes you just quietly step back. You stop explaining yourself. You stop shrinking to keep the peace. You stop waiting for them to change, and you focus on growing anyway. You learn to be okay with being misunderstood, because you know in your heart that you're moving toward peace, not away from love. You are allowed to protect your progress. You are allowed to say, I love you, but I won't stay stuck here with you. You are allowed to walk in freedom, even if it means walking alone for a little while. And let me tell you, on the other side of that hard decision is a deeper kind of peace. The kind that makes you breathe easier, sleep better, smile wider. So don't be afraid to let go of what's holding you back, even if it looks familiar. Because not everyone who's been around you has been good for you. And not everyone who's close deserves to stay close. There's a kind of person that becomes especially dangerous to your spirit as you grow older. Not dangerous in the sense that they yell or fight or stir up chaos. No, these people wear a calm face, sometimes even a polite smile. But deep down, they are fueled by envy. Quiet, corrosive, consistent envy. And I want to tell you today, you must avoid them, especially in your later years. Because envy doesn't always show up with loud complaints or obvious bitterness. Often it hides behind sarcasm, behind backhanded compliments, behind constant comparisons. These are the ones who, when you share good news, change the subject. When you mention a blessing, they remind you of a problem. When others speak well of you, they nod stiffly, never joining in. Envy can't celebrate others because it's too consumed by its own emptiness. And the tragic part is, it often shows up in people close to you. People you thought would be in your corner forever. Sometimes it's a sibling who always saw your strength as competition, or a lifelong friend who silently measured themselves against your every move. Sometimes it's even a child or grandchild who can't quite accept that you've managed to keep your joy, your dignity, your grace, even after everything you've been through, and they resent it. They won't say it outright, but you'll feel it in their tone, in their absence, in their subtle attempts to minimize your significance. And here's what makes it dangerous. When you're older, you're more vulnerable to that kind of behavior. Not because you're weak, but because your heart is tender. You want peace, you want closeness. You're more likely to overlook little jabs, to excuse bad attitudes, to tell yourself, maybe it's just me. But it's not just you. It's real, and it's something you can't afford to ignore. Envy left unchecked can damage your peace without ever raising its voice. It's like a slow leak in a tire, quiet but relentless. These people may not confront you, but they'll undermine you. They'll resist your joy. They'll pull back their support when you need it most. And worst of all, they'll make you question whether you're allowed to shine. You are absolutely allowed to enjoy your life, even now. You're allowed to take joy in your blessings, to be grateful for what God has done, to speak of it freely and fully without tiptoeing around the insecurities of others. You've lived too long, cried too hard, and fought through too much to now dim your light just to soothe someone else's envy. What's tragic is that envy doesn't even have to exist. There's enough grace to go around, enough blessings, enough joy, enough room for all of us to thrive. But an envious heart doesn't see abundance. It only sees competition. And if you're not careful, you'll begin to shrink your life down to make envious people feel better. You'll stop talking about what makes you happy. You'll avoid mentioning what you've accomplished. You'll start editing yourself, not because of humility, but because of fear. That's not how you were meant to live. Let me tell you something plain. Your joy is not arrogance. Your blessings are not bragging. Your peace is not a problem. You don't owe anyone silence to make them feel better about their dissatisfaction. And anyone who truly loves you, truly supports you, will never resent the light in your eyes or the song in your spirit. You see, envy says, why you? But love says, I'm glad it's you. And as you get older, you need to be surrounded by those who rejoice with you, people who clap when you win, people who sit with you not just in sorrow, but in celebration, People who aren't threatened by your strength, but inspired by it. That's the kind of energy you deserve. And if you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells around someone just to keep the peace, ask yourself, is it really peace? Or is it just quiet resentment? You were not called to tiptoe through your own life. You were called to walk boldly, humbly, and gratefully. You can be kind without being small. You can be gracious without being silent. And you can absolutely choose to remove yourself from relationships that run on envy, because the cost is too high. Let those who can't handle your joy sit with their own bitterness. That's their work, not yours. Your only job is to protect the peace you've spent a lifetime earning. And if that means distancing yourself from those who silently compete, who can't rejoice in your freedom, who shrink back when they see you rising, so be it. You've come too far to turn down the volume of your joy. One of the most heartbreaking things to watch, and even more painful to experience, is spending your later years surrounded by people who have no honor for the sacredness of time. They don't value moments. They waste conversations. They talk but say nothing. They're present, but never truly with you. And worse, they treat your time, your stories, your presence, your very existence as something ordinary, as if it will always be there. But I need to tell you this. Not everyone deserves access to your time. Not everyone deserves the gift of your presence, because that's exactly what it is, a gift. And in your older years, it becomes even more precious, more rare, more fragile. You no longer have days to throw away on meaningless chatter or empty company. You no longer have the energy to sit through hours of complaint or bitterness or shallow distractions. Your soul is craving something deeper now. Connection, not noise. Truth, not performance. Warmth, not routine. There are people in your life who, if you're honest, have stopped showing up for you a long time ago. They come around out of obligation or out of habit, maybe even out of guilt, but not out of love, not out of hunger to connect. You speak and they half listen. You share your heart and they scroll through their phones. You invite them into meaningful conversation and they dodge it with sarcasm or small talk. You feel yourself slowly fading in their presence, not because you're tired, but because they no longer make room for you to be fully alive around them. And here's the part that stings. Many of these people don't even realize what they're doing. They think because they show up once in a while or say the right words on holidays that they've done enough. But the older you get, the more you realize that love is not about appearances. It's about depth, about effort, about presence. And if someone can't be present with you, heart open, ears attentive, spirit engaged, then why are you giving them the most sacred currency you have left? Your time. I want you to hear me loud and clear. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your life. You don't have to feel guilty for pulling back from people who drain you, who dismiss you, or who only show up when they need something. You've been faithful, you've been kind, you've been available. But now it's time to be wise. Time is a teacher, and by the time you reach these years, you've learned its lessons, how quickly it moves, how permanently it leaves, how precious every moment becomes. And so you have every right to be selective about who gets your time, not out of arrogance, not out of spite, but out of reverence. For what's left of your days, for what remains of your strength, for the treasure that your life still is. You see, there are some people who can sit in your company for hours and never see your soul. And there are others who in 5 minutes can make you feel fully known. Start paying attention to that. Start noticing who leaves you full and who leaves you empty. Who makes time stretch and who makes it feel wasted. Because these moments you're living now, they're not throwaways. They're sacred. They are the final brushstrokes on the canvas of your life, and you deserve to spend them with people who recognize the art. Let me tell you something else. There are people out there who do value your time, who long to sit with you, not to get something, but just to be near your wisdom, your peace, your presence. They're not always the loudest. They're not always the ones closest by blood, but they're watching, they're listening, they're learning, they're grateful. Find those people, make space for them. Share your time with those who treat it like the treasure it is. And if that means saying no more often, do it. If it means turning off the phone, stepping away from certain conversations, declining invitations that don't serve your spirit, do it. Because you're not just managing a schedule anymore, you're guarding your legacy. You're protecting your soul. You're choosing depth over distraction, purpose over noise. This is your time, and it's holy. Every breath, every step, every moment you still have, it's worth protecting. So don't waste it on those who see you as a convenience. Give it to those who see you as a gift.